My name is Marcus Kiyomura. I am a 34-year-old male living in Oakland, California, and I just survived a stroke this last November, 2017. As a result of the stroke, I was also diagnosed with a rare disease called moyamoya. Its literal translation from Japanese is puff of smoke. Your average brain scan showing blood vessels should result in the brain scan resembling that of tree branches. But with moyamoya patients such as myself, such scans will be foggy, unclear, and not have that branching out that is expected with your average brain. Or non-diseased brain, I guess, is one way of putting it. So, living in Oakland, being on Medi-Cal, and given the insurance I have, there was a lot of question as to which hospital to go to. I live in the East Oakland Hills. Initially, we made a beeline for Alameda Emergency Hospital, ER department. Then got rerouted to Alta Bates, Summit. After consulting the doctor there, the ER doctor, I was transferred to the ICU at Alta Bates in Berkeley. This is all on a Sunday morning in November. So Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday night was spent in Berkeley with, not gonna lie, gorgeous view of the Bay Area. Wednesday morning, after consulting all the doctors and figuring out what triggered the stroke, it was an aneurysm, not ischemic. So there was a hemorrhage. At this point you can see the scar from the aneurysm clipping. And there's about a titanium plate about that size, more or less, that was used to cap off, the drilling into the skull. And so that was literally the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. But back to bouncing around from ICU to getting diagnosed with moyamoya. It was a Wednesday, I believe November 16th, when I was transferred from the Berkeley campus to the Eden Hospital in Castro Valley, which is where the neurosurgery department of Alta Bates Network is. And that's where I spoke with a doctor. Let me slow down. That Wednesday morning when I was transferred to Castro Valley, the purpose of which was to have a CT angiogram. And so that procedure is CAT scan of the brain, but under mild sedation, a catheter is inserted into my femoral artery and a fluid is flushed through the femoral artery up to my carotid artery, and then eventually going to the brain, showing how my brain receives blood flow. And so after consulting the neurosurgeon there, who diagnosed the moyamoya and informed me of the statistics and what it is, the literal translation. Basically that morning I learned moyamoya is most common in Japanese, Koreans, and then Chinese. And so, fortunate for me, as a result of migratory patterns and living in the Bay Area and et cetera, Stanford Hospital has a neurosurgery program run by, if you look at their neurosurgery department, the head of the department is the man who did this surgery, and is going to do the 2 corrective surgeries for each half of my brain to correct my moyamoya. I'll get into the details more. At this point, I don't want to name drop in case of, confidentiality, etc. But main point was, from the beginning of my stroke on Sunday, having time in ICU spent with occupational therapists, physical therapists. By that Thursday and Friday at Eden, at the end of that week, I was up and about walking without assistance devices. But pretty weakness on my upper extremity, my arm. I was able to make a fist, open the fist, slower, etc. Range of motion was limited. And so it was decided that week, there was a debate with the health network whether to go from Eden back to Summit for acute rehab. But after all things got figured out, it was, after the moyamoya diagnosis, it was determined that I would immediately be transferred to Stanford Hospital. And so Friday afternoon is when all the confusion and anxiety happened, given the transport. And there is one particular ambulance company that has a reputation for tardiness given these emergency situations. And so on the Friday, I was scheduled to depart from Eden Hospital Friday afternoon at 4 p.m., 1600 hours. But as a result of this company's reputation and the back and forth between whether it was Oakland or Stanford, I ended up spending Friday night at Eden thanks to the charge nurse on duty. Because by the time the ambulance came to get me, it was 8 p.m. and I was already comfy in bed. So, sure enough, she came in not long after 8 to say, "Hey, I'm sorry for all the miscommunication. I just came from the elevators and turned the transport, the ambulance drivers around, said, hey, you guys screwed up. He's staying here tonight." And again, I'm not going to name drop, but that charge nurse or administrative level to take that initiative is something I very much appreciate. So Saturday morning, again, everything's packed up, ready to wait for transport from Eden to Stanford. It's Saturday evening when that happens. Drive across the Dumbarton Bridge and get to the neurosurgery department right in time for shift change, actually. It's 7 p.m. on November 18th. The next morning, Sunday, I actually consulted with a neurosurgeon and his team, and the tentative schedule for the aneurysm clipping was Tuesday or Wednesday. So Monday, gathering lots of things together in terms of advanced directives and all that sort of thing. It was actually a very interesting process. Before that happened, I had hair down to my waist, and so knowing that hair would get in the way, I had my father cut it off, and we donated it to Locks for Love, which I learned maybe just a month or so ago about. There was a Facebook post about how Locks for Love actually sells said donations. So I get to laugh about that now, but the laughter is actually a defense mechanism. It's in my opinion wrong to accept donated items and then charge for said donated items, but that's just my personal opinion. Anywho, moving on. Monday night in Stanford, I had to get an MRI where they had basically take these barnacle-like dimples, and you can see there used to be a bit of a bald spot, but now the hair's grown out. Basically, they put these markers on your head and take an MRI to get a 3D map of my brain, so that for the surgery they know the most direct access, where to cut, where to drill in, etc., etc. But as a result of holidays, ER department, etc., I spent literally all afternoon and evening awaiting this one scan, because you could literally hear the helicopters coming in for the ER drops and the prioritization of emergencies from my room. So by the time I did get the scan completed, it was probably 10:30, 11 p.m. at night. We'll say 10ish. And then as a result of hypothermic, I'm a hard stick. There's tattoos and stuff, but if you don't have a trained person with a steady hand, I'm trying to find my veins. You can see the lighting's not the best. There's multiple dots on the back of my hands and up my arms as a result of the scar tissue due to the number of times I had to have a IV intravenous inserted in my arms, and so that's that. Basically, Tuesday morning, I was ready for the surgery. First thing, family and friends were present that morning. As I was leaving my room and headed up to the surgery department, siblings, my niece, brother-in-law, etc., significant others that are extended family. And so Tuesday morning, brain aneurysm clipping. When I came about in the ICU after the post-surgery, it was around probably 6 or 7 p.m. And by that time, all my family members had left ICU to go home, rest, obviously. That's all I'm going to do for now. We'll take a break. Thanks for listening.